You had so much benefit in your health the last couple years, and I just
Yeah.
feel so honored to come on here and talk about that, and help other people if possible, right? Yeah, a little bit about me is traditionally trained as a chiropractor. Back in 2006, graduated, quickly became fascinated by all things root cause, nutrition, functional wellness, functional medicine, whatever you want to call it, right? Started training with Dr. Dan Kalish early on. Just became fascinated by reading specialty labs, working on diet, nutrition. My wife was actually one of my first, patients, clients. She had eczema and some other autoimmune conditions, was able to greatly help her
Mm.
with a functional wellness, functional medicine approach. And boy, after that, I was really hooked, right? And I started learning all I could. I've done many, many postgraduate training. Recently, a couple of years ago, just went through a functional diagnostic nutrition training course, certified as a functional diagnostic nutrition health coach. I see people virtually all over the country working on optimizing their health, really, which is very
That's a
rewarding,
great
right?
company, by the way. You recommended that I take some courses from them as well, and
You bet.
they
Yep.
know their stuff.
They
Yeah.
are they are top notch. I think it's one of the
Yeah.
it's a great even for, people that have gone through graduate school and or other people that want to get into learning more about root cause and functional wellness and functional medicine. It's a great course to go through. It's pretty
Yeah.
intense and it gives you some great resources, right? Which is really cool. And
Yeah.
kind of perpetual student. I have another course that I plan on taking here soon, and I just love learning in this field. Boy, it's really important just to continue learning and stay on top of things. And my main goal is how can we get, our clients, patients better quicker, right?
Mhm.
And so they can get on with their life and just, feel great as quickly as possible. And that's my true
People
passion,
are going to hear this and go, 2 years doesn't sound very quick. But
right?
you've told me, in the big scheme of things, 2 years is really very small. So what is
For sure.
the like ratio that you've told me to keep in mind while I'm going through this process of like it takes so many years to get
Yeah.
better
Yep.
compared to
Exactly. So one of my, what a great mentor of mine, Dr. Todd Watts, co-founder, co-owner of Cellcore Biosciences, phenomenal doctor, a great mentor. He told me this once, and it really stuck. And I really do see this to be really true. Working with people, is that for every decade or for every 10 years that you've been sick, chronically ill, what have you, it's going to take about 1 year to get better per those 10 years, right? So it's a little bit different. Yeah, some people can get a lot better, almost 100% there in 6 to 12 months. Some people are going to need 2 to 4 years, right? And like you said, to your point, when I tell people, hey, what's 1 to 3, 2 to 4 years when you've been on this planet for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? It's,
right.
in the whole scheme of things, it's a short amount of time,
And
right?
to get your health back
You
is,
bet.
yeah, it's worth it.
Definitely, definitely
Yeah,
worth it for
it's
sure.
worth it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
bet. You
yeah.
bet. Very cool. I agree
All right,
100%.
so jumping into the parasites.
Yes, right?
So
Favorite
a lot of
topic, right?
people, a lot of people want to know how common is this?
Yeah.
We think of parasites in other parts of the world. We don't think of them as being here.
Mhm.
So how common is it for us, those of us that stay pretty much in the US? Like how common is it for us to be in
Exactly,
contact
right.
with
Yep.
parasites?
Parasites, right? A lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh, that's a third world, country issue. I haven't been to, Mexico or Brazil or what have you, India. The fact of the matter is, it's not. We have it here. Those. I heard this joke once. The parasites don't get the memo to stay at the borders, right?
Hmm.
And they're a
Right.
lot more prevalent than people realize, right? There's actually been studies that show that there's parasites on the, shopping cart at Costco or the grocery store you're at, right? If somebody doesn't wash
Mm.
their hands appropriately after using the restroom, it can happen. Food being prepared that same way. We have fruits and vegetables being flown in all over the world that can, be a source of parasites. Our dogs, lick and kiss us and we pet them and stuff. We can actually get, parasites through them as well. Other pets walking
Mm.
outside barefoot in certain areas, which, I don't want to hamper too much because I love grounding, but, sometimes
Right.
they can get in through the feet, right? And the
Or
bare
like
feet.
wearing your shoes maybe indoors on your carpet and
Yeah,
dragging
exactly,
them into
right.
your home,
You
maybe.
bet. You
Yeah.
bet. So a lot more prevalent than people realize. You go to your traditional medical doctor or another practitioner that, really doesn't know too much about parasites, and that's just their training, right? They'll tell people, oh, that's not an issue, right? Here in the US, but I've definitely seen it. I've seen it firsthand, people passing, lots of visible parasites, and it really is an issue. It really is an issue for sure here, and it's something that we have to address. That I find working with people for them to get their health back completely, right?
Yeah, because they cause such an array of different symptoms
They do. Yeah.
that get credited for different things, like different diseases and stuff, but it could
Yep.
actually be parasites that are getting missed. What are some of the
Mhm.
symptoms that people are experiencing?
You bet. You bet. Great question. It's like, okay, if I have them, what do I look for, right? That's what people want
Yeah,
to know, right? It's like, okay, do I have them or
yeah,
not? What do I look for? How do I get rid of them, right? We'll go through all those. But really, some of the most common symptoms, we'll start with the easy ones, right? Like digestive issues, right?
yeah.
IBS, right? That garbage can diagnosis, IBS. A lot of times that can be parasites, sometimes not, but usually more often than not, that's a component of it. SIBO, right? Parasites can be present with SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. It can be, cause of bloating, right? Just simple
Mhm.
stuff like that, excess gas, bloating. And then you get other things that you don't think are super common with parasites, right? Like, can affect the brain. Anything that affects the gut can affect the brain, right? Because there's a
Right.
huge connection between the two.
Yeah.
People can start expressing anxiety, panic attacks, depression, mood swings, right? OCD. There's certain bacteria and parasites that are linked to OCD, bipolar, right? You name it. It's pretty wild. And then other interesting things like really bad fatigue, brain fog.
Yeah.
That parasites can be a huge cause of that. Um,
Yeah.
and also other interesting things like teeth grinding at night. A lot of kids teeth grind, right? And that parasites can be a big cause of that, if you will. And then bedwetting, fingernail biting. There's a lot of, boy, the list goes on and can
Mhm.
affect so many things, than a lot more than people realize as well, right? So
So
yeah.
if someone is feeling like I've got these symptoms, maybe I do have parasites and they're wanting to take steps to get rid of potentially the parasites that are inside
Sure.
of them, do they need to take time to prepare the body? What's the best way to prepare the body before they just like dive in and
For
start
sure. For sure.
ridding
Yep.
themselves of parasites?
Great question, great question. And I deal with this all the time with clients, educating people about this, because, medical doctors and a lot of alternative practitioners alike, well, they want to just jump right in and kill, 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 either the medications or the herbal killers. And from my training and what I've discovered working with clients is that that's not necessarily the correct route to go. That can make people a lot sicker, right? Because if the body's not able to deal with this huge onslaught of these parasites that have to process and get out of the body that have passed away, if you will, then it can make people a lot sicker, right? So I find it incredibly important. There's a drainage funnel. I'll have to show it to your people one of these days through Cellcore, where the bottom of that drainage funnel is the colon, right? People need to be going. Number two, they need to be having bowel movements 2 or 3 times a day, and that's a big shock to a lot of people because a lot of people, they are, not everybody, but a lot of people that I work with that are chronically ill, not feeling well, they're only going number two, maybe once every other day, once every 2 or 3 days. I actually had a client where she was going once every week, week and a half, and thought that was normal, right? Definitely not, right? 2 or 3 times a day. I like to shoot for at least twice a day. I'm happy with that. A little bit more than that once, that people like their one time a day, but get things moving, right? And then we move up the drainage funnel. We need to make sure the liver and the kidneys are
Mhm.
working properly. We support them via nutraceuticals and certain steps that people can take, that are free,
Castor
like,
oil packs
yeah,
are a good
castor
one.
oil packs. Yes, coffee
Like that one.
enemas. Not saying everybody has to do a coffee enema. It's a great tool, but and other things too. Get the body sweating,
Yeah.
from
Sauna
exercise,
blankets.
from
Yes.
sauna blankets. Yes, I love your sauna blanket that you have on there. That's a
Yes.
game changer.
Mhm.
Sauna's great. Rebounding, dry brushing, Epsom salt
Mhm.
baths. There's so many things. I usually spend a good 30 to 60 days with my typical client. Some might need less, some might need more depending on how long they've been sick and what they have going on. But you need to spend that time to open those drainage pathways, if you will, first, right? And that makes it a lot more tolerable, a lot safer, a lot more doable for the client to finally address the parasites. It's kind of like I used to paint with my uncle, right? When I was a teenager, and it was all the boring work, the taping and prepping. That's kind of the drainage. Not really boring, but everybody wants to get to the good part and kill off the parasites. Like the good part was the painting and the rolling of the paint. That was the fun part when I used to work with my uncle. But you know, you gotta do the prep work first. It
Yeah.
really makes it a lot more doable, you know, and tolerable for people, right?
What are some things that people run into if they skip this important step?
Yeah, exactly. So people can get the Herxheimer reactions, which really means like that's just a backup of toxins. That drainage funnel is clogged, it's not moving. So you get the backup, and that can express as skin rashes, right? It can
Mhm.
express as nausea, fever,
Mhm.
vomiting,
Headaches.
headaches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can really bring people down and they don't feel well, right? So, and obviously I don't want that, you know, do no harm as much as possible and really just, you know, help support people through that process is incredibly important, right? Even
I
yourself, you
know.
know, even with
Yeah.
you,
I
we
was
did a
just
lot
gonna
of drainage
say,
work. We did a
yeah.
good solid 60 days, right? And even you still had some
So,
minor stuff, right? It was doable, right? I
yeah.
was able to coach you through that until it was normal
Yeah.
and but it was very doable. But boy, if we didn't do that the first 60 days, it could have been a whole lot worse, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
And
incredibly important.
that being said, like
Mhm.
in my opinion, it's really important to work with a practitioner who knows what to expect and who can offer the support to guide you through it. Because for myself, like I had 2 solid weeks of it felt like jalapeno juice in my eyes and they were
Mhm.
swollen. It was miserable and it would have been really scary for me had I not had you reassuring me and telling me this is a part of the process. It's got to come out.
Right.
So for anybody who is listening to this and you're thinking about um, getting rid of those parasites, I would say try and work with a practitioner who can guide you through it, offer
For
you
sure.
support, encouragement, and reassurance.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
it's
would say
important.
incredibly important. As you know, and as everybody listening knows, there's 1,001 or 1,000,001 products out there, and everybody has a parasite
Right.
killer, this and that, right? But I really do. You know, I recommend working with somebody. Doesn't have to be me at all, but you know, somebody that knows what they're doing, right? To walk you through this, to coach you through this, if you will, because it's you know, you use and more important too, more importantly, use products that actually work appropriately
Right.
like the professional brands like Cellcore Biosciences and a few others that actually do a good job. But the thing is, boy, they work so well. Definitely work with somebody because it can be pretty
They do.
strong, pretty
They,
potent. And people literally
but if
see, you
they're
know,
effective, they work.
exactly, right?
They
So,
work.
so all the more important, work with somebody who knows what they're doing to
Yeah.
walk you through this. Use the right products. And another thing too, you know, like Cellcore and like a couple other companies I use, they have what's called binders. And these binders are incredibly important to take along with these parasite killers. To make sure that they do grab onto certain toxins, right? Because I forgot to explain this earlier, but parasites, your body actually allows parasites to come into the body and help out with the toxin overload, if you will, right? Because parasites can contain 5 to 6 times their body weight in heavy metals, mycotoxins, right? They
They eat
also
them
can,
up in
yeah,
the
they eat
body.
them up. Yeah, they kind of they're inside you, if you will. I know, which sounds weird, but your body actually allows this to happen because we're getting inundated with chemicals, heavy metals, mold and
Yeah.
mycotoxins. You know, topics for some future talks that you and I can have, right? Because those are a good, you know, 30, 60 minute talk in and of themselves, each subject, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and what you need to do, what you need to think about is these parasites contain these toxins. They also can contain viruses, whether it be, you know, herpes family viruses, Epstein-Barr, other retroviruses. And so when these parasites do die off, they can, you know, spew those things into your body, right? And if you don't have a proper binder grabbing onto these things, then you could, you know, feel a lot worse as well. And that's what's amazing about some of these companies. They have some really good binders that grab onto those and make it even more tolerable, you know, for the client going through this, right?
So if somebody doesn't take actions to eliminate parasites, will the parasites go away on their own eventually, or do they just
Great.
stay with us for forever?
Great question. Great question. And, really, parasites, by individual, they all have their life cycle, right? There's adult parasites, there's eggs, and the adult ones in you, they're constantly laying eggs. So it's kind of this vicious cycle, right? Yeah, you might go through natural history if you don't do anything about it. You might go through ups and downs of feeling great or maybe a little bit better, not great, and then going back to feeling really bad. But I would say, typically, if you want to realize optimal health, really important to finally address these things, get them out of your body the right way. And here's a great thing, boy. There's a proper pecking order. Yeah, drainage, address gut and parasites, but really, Melody, as you know, the reason those parasites are usually there is because of something upstream. It's usually a toxin, right? There's been a lot of practitioners that keep killing parasites, where they never address the toxin, whether it be mercury, lead, right? Mycotoxins, chemicals, radiation. From my training and studying with Dr. Todd Watts, Dr. Jay Davidson with Cellcore, it's really that upstream toxin is the reason they're there to begin with, right? But you have to get the drainage first. You have to balance out that parasitic load. You're never going to fully kill them off and have a sterile body, but you need to get that load to a reasonable level first, and then you can start going after the toxins. That's really the proper sequence of things, right? So,
So, for someone listening to this and they're thinking, well, I don't have an overload of toxins, can you
mhm,
maybe share with them what you've shared with me that it's more common than we think we're actually born into this world
for
with a
sure.
toxic
Yeah,
load?
exactly. And that's something too I love teaching clients about. And I used to give a lot of health talks when I started doing more of them. But really, boy, and children, they're born, especially this day and age. A lot of the most toxic, beings on the earth are children now, right? Because believe it or not, you get a lot of toxins from your mother, right? Amalgam fillings. If your mom has amalgam fillings, that it's been proven that a mercury actually gets in to the baby in utero. That mercury can get in the baby's brain, right? Not to mention all the other chemicals. We're inundated with, 50 to 80,000 chemicals per year in our environment, actually getting into the baby. Lead, right? Lead when the mom's pregnant with kiddos, lead gets stored in bone, right? And when the mom is pregnant, a lot of calcium stuff gets released, that bone remodels, and a lot of, along with the calcium comes the lead, right? So
Mhm.
I've tested moms and kids where they have identical lead levels, pretty high, right? So a lot of children are born with these toxins, and then you're exposed to things after you're
Yeah.
born, right?
Day after day.
Day after day,
Just, yeah.
pesticides, chemicals, heavy
Yeah.
metals, mold, mycotoxins. That's another huge thing that's becoming quite the buzzword lately. In my training, we used to think it was 50% of all buildings in the US had some form of, pathogenic mold or mycotoxin burden. Now it's estimated more, around 85% of all buildings in the US have some
That's
form
huge.
of mold, especially up here with all the rain in Pacific Northwest. But
Yeah.
even in the desert areas where they have HVAC systems that are running all the time, they're not cleaned out properly. They're a huge source of mold. A lot of the roofs are inadequate, so when they do get rain, boy, it only takes, one or two rainstorms and mold can start growing right away, right? So
85%. That's
80%,
huge.
85% of
That's
buildings, isn't that
huge.
isn't that crazy? Yeah. So
Yeah.
huge issue. People just don't realize that these, sources of toxins, right? So I do have
Yeah.
certain questionnaires as other practitioners of, what pinpoints certain toxins. There
Mhm.
are some tests we can do to measure that, right? But yeah, a lot of people are
I
very
want to
toxic.
plug something in there.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I, in my 20s and my 30s, I went to doctors, and I have to say, you've done the most thorough testing in the past 2 years ever. So,
Awesome.
and you've given me answers that I've never gotten before. So I'm appreciative for that, but I'm appreciative for the
Great.
in-depth testing that you go through to find these root causes, things that I had no idea about. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
it's
I
an
love to hear it,
awesome
right? Yeah.
experience.
That is my
It's
goal.
an
That is
awesome
my goal.
experience. I
Yeah.
say that because I'm on this side of it and I feel
Right,
really
right.
good.
Yeah.
It's been a roller coaster ride, but so worth
Yeah,
it. So
exactly.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
For sure. Yeah, you bet. And I appreciate it. And that's really what I strive for. It's like, not better than anybody else, but, have this certain training where let's go to root
right,
cause, and God bless our medical system. Boy, if I get in a car
right,
accident or have a heart attack,
right,
that's where our medical system really
right.
shines. But with these chronic issues, there's not
Right.
a whole lot of answers out there, right? And that's
Yeah.
really, boy, bringing it all together, to help people as much as possible with these chronic illness issues is incredibly important, right? So
Yeah.
awesome. Very
Yeah.
good. Cool.
Very, yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close this video?
Boy,
I think we're gonna
yeah,
have to do like a part two and a part
yeah,
three so that we can go over all the different things, but
you
yeah, there's
bet,
a
for
lot to
sure.
say on
Yeah,
everything.
you bet. No, I just, it's awesome being on here. Thank you for asking me to be on here. I will give my information to your following, to your tribe, if you will, on
Okay.
how they can find me. I'm actually setting up in Vancouver, and I have a new website and Instagram coming out shortly. Hopefully, a rudimentary stuff will be available when this video is edited and gets to your people, right? So, if they do have any questions, then I do offer free 15-minute, consults for people that just have questions, prospective new clients on how the system works, all the goodies, right? So,
I'll
um,
put your
yeah,
information in the description of the video
you
and
bet.
yeah.
Post my information
Okay.
in the description, and if you have
Awesome.
any questions, let them know, and be happy to talk to them, right? So.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Good. Yeah. Well, great talking to you. You have an
You
excellent
too.
Friday and a happy
Thank
good
you. You
morning, and a
too.
little bit of
Yes.
rain today, but that's okay. We got a
There
bunch
is.
of,
Yeah.
a little break in the sunshine, which, that's actually free watering for the grass, right? So
That's true. That's true. Way
anyway,
to be positive.
yeah, you bet. So, but let's meet again and let's talk about, boy, we can tackle other topics such as heavy metals.
Mold is,
But we could talk a lot about that, mold,
yeah.
chemicals. We could talk about testing for parasites. We could talk about testing for heavy metals, chemicals, mold, mitochondrial.
Environmental toxins come to
Exactly.
mind.
Yep. There's a
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of cool subjects we can talk about, right? That's what
Yeah. There
makes
really are.
this so fun.
Nutrition.
You bet. Yeah, nutrition, diet, everybody wants to know about that too. So yeah, let's talk soon. Okay. Very good.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Have
Okay.
a good one, Melody. Take
You
care.
too. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Brandon.
Bye.